Welcome back to BAS 120. We're going to go through Chapter 12 on data mining. We're going to talk about the scope, how we use explore data, and how the main technique we're going to use there is clustering. That's where we're looking for how to describe the data. Then we're going to get into some classification and techniques. That's where we actually use a model or data to try to predict new arrivals. For example, we'll go through a credit example where we use data to predict which should be approved, and then as new data comes in, we're able to approve or disapprove someone for credit. Then we're going to talk about association rules. I think most of you are familiar with this. This is sort of the Netflix. If you liked this movie, you'd like this other movie, or Amazon. If you purchase this book, you'd purchase another book. And a lot of the association rules are going to call up our conditional probability. If you remember that from prior chapters, conditional probabilities where, if I'm given a piece of information, it changes the probability. For example, I say, the odds of me being an NBA player is very remote, but if you're given the fact that I'm 6'10", it might still be remote, but certainly the probability of me being a basketball player increases dramatically if you're aware of the fact that I'm 6'10". And then the last thing is we'll talk about some cause and effect, some of the regression techniques to look at what might drive different outcomes used in insurance. All of this data mining is used in pretty much every business. In any place you have data. So let's move on. Obviously, data mining is rapidly growing, and it's used to identify hidden patterns, particularly in large data sets where it's impossible to oftentimes to see what's going on. So you'll use some clustering techniques to help describe the data, and you'll see more and more as we go through each examples. Now, it involves both descriptive, which is mostly the clustering techniques where we put them into groups. I think you've heard of the soccer moms or the NASCAR dads, just to describe groups of data. And then it also uses some sort of ability to predict what's going to happen. Some common approaches. First, data exploration is where we identify groups. Again, the soccer moms, etc. And we'll go through an example of colleges and universities where we put colleges and universities perhaps into highly selective, less selective. I think if you have college folks, you've seen that. Classification is where we actually analyze the data to predict a new classification. So we'll be doing some credit approval analysis where we'll say, all right, given their some facts about a client, for example, their credit score, their years of credit history, we might want to know their years in an address. We might want to know how much debt they've already incurred. And based on these various factors, we'll be able to classify that person, and we'll be able to predict whether we want to put them as an approved client or an unapproved client. Association, that's where you're going to be analyzing, again, if they like this, they might like that. Another very much based on conditional probability. And the last one is cause and effect. That's where we develop analytic models to describe relationships. And normally there's some sort of regression model where we can say, based on all of this stuff, here's what's happening. So we're going to do an example there where we're talking about how we might be able to predict customer satisfaction and what are the different factors that impact customer satisfaction. So the first one, I think I'll break it up here, and then the next video we'll start in on cluster analysis.